Hello YouTube, my name is RJ and welcome to my workshop. Today I wanted to talk to you about a tire tool that I made for myself, and it's an extendable hose filling air chuck. The reason I made it for myself is I don't like working on tires that much. I've seen tires let loose, I know how much energy, how much force is in there, and I end up working on a lot of old equipment. A lot of farm tractors or lawnmower, whatever, just old things. The tires get dry rotted, checked, and I just don't enjoy being, with an air chuck like this, having my face 2 inches from the tire, which you don't need to be that close, but right next to it. So especially when I'm working on something that's got a really old tire, this is nice because I've got a control valve here and I've got a locking tire chuck and 10 feet of hose. So I can hook this hose onto a tire, stand back, stand off to the side, something like that, and it'll work fine. Just puts me in a little bit better position. So I'd like to show you that, but I also want to show you how I made it and some of the fittings and things that I used, and I guess more just to kind of give you some ideas of how to solve a problem for yourself. If this is something you're looking for, that's great. If you've got another, error application, think outside the box. Don't just say, well, what can I get on the shelf at the local XYZ store? So what I'd like to do is bring you in a little bit closer. I'll show you some of the stuff that I've got here, how I made it, and then we'll go from there. So here's the tool close up, and there's a quick connect here. So this is actually just a cheap Harbor Freight inflation valve. I don't even know when I got it or how I got it. So I believe this would have, when it came from Harbor Freight, would have had like one of these fittings on here. So these fittings are typically all 1/4 inch pipe fittings. So I just disconnected the air chuck that was on there, put a quick connect on, and what I used for the longest time was this. So it gave me a quick connect. I could either use a shorty standard valve, or I could clip this on, or different types of attachments. It worked well. When I came up with the idea, I saw that there are these locking. So if you notice, this is an air chuck that you have to hold on to the valve stem. This style has a catch on it. So you push on that, slide it onto the Schrader valve, release, and that'll hold itself on. There's also an inline version of this that'll lock on. I don't have one of those at this point, but it worked pretty. I would like to get one of those. That would be handy. So basically, you can latch this onto a tire, connect this, hook up this to your pressurized hose, and then if you're not familiar with these, and I'm not hooked up to a pressurized hose, so I can't do this right now, but there's a gauge here. It's a sliding gauge like one of these. And it gives you, a reasonable pressure reading of the tire. So nice and simple. To make this, what I did, and this is one thing that I really wanted to show off. These are, people have probably seen these before. This is a barb fitting. It's for low pressure items. Usually you put a hose clamp on it. This one happens to be inverted flare fittings. It's just something I had laying around. This fitting here, Weatherhead makes one called a Barb Tite, I believe. You can see a little bit closer, it's got some pretty good sized barbs on it. And then Parker, I believe you look under Push Lok, I think is the name of it. Again, these two that I happen to have laying around are an inverted flare set. I don't know what I got those for. But these are 3/8, and then usually what I'll do is I'll use a 1/4 inch NPT. And these are just a push-on fitting. All you do is, this is just some 3/8 air hose. I usually keep a coil or two around. I had 10-foot chunk left over. And all you do is take the air hose, make sure you got a nice clean cut on it, lubricate it a little bit, and then this hose fitting, the hose just pushes onto the fitting, and that's it. You're not even supposed to put a clamp on there. If you read the instructions, it tells you that clamp could damage it. And I believe these are rated to 250 or 300 psi working pressure. It's based on the hose, not the fitting actually. So I'll put some links in the description to some of these fittings. They're phenomenal. And these are what I kind of wanted to show off. You know, if you've got any ideas, you know, I need a short air hose for, you know, this project or that project. I don't want a 50-foot or a 25-foot pre-made hose. Get yourself, I try to keep a couple of these fittings. This is the only one I've got left. I gotta get some more NPT ones to have in the shop. So they're really nice to have. You can really do some nice things with them. The other quick thing I wanted to talk about is I have a nice, this is quite a bit older, so it's a bit beat up. This is a tire gauge I trust. I know this thing is accurate. I've tested it multiple locations against multiple other gauges. These type of gauges I find very inaccurate sometimes. Sometimes they work great if they get a little bit dirty, sticky. So if you're going to use one of these, try to use it against something else. Have a known reference to it. Or at least go out and get yourself, there's some nice digital ones. I'm not really up on tire pressure gauges. I just have a known one that I use. So try to do that. Like I say, this is a cheap Harbor Freight valve here with a gauge in it. And I've tested it against my known good gauge multiple times and it's worked quite well. So I would like to, you know, I thought about getting a nicer one, but it works well. These are, this connector is a Milton. I believe I got this at Northern Tools. They're available many places, a lot of auto parts stores. So let me hook this up and show you how it all works. Okay, so this is a spare tire I've got laying around off a Ford truck. It's getting pretty weather checked. This one's not terrible. Like I say, you know, when you pull a 1957 Ford tractor into the shop, its tires have been around for 30 years. They're pretty rough looking. But the sun really degrades tires quite a bit. So, like I say, if you get some that are really weather checked, I don't enjoy being right next to them all the time. So take your valve stem cap off, grab the release lever here, slide it on, let go, and it'll grab a hold of it. I'm not going to be real far away on this one, but then you just take your inflation valve and you can add air to it. You can see here the gauge is coming out. This tire, like I say, is it's a spare laying around. It's only got 20 psi in it. You let go, when this thing comes down, it tells you what how much air is in the tire. That's only 10 psi, so we got quite a ways to go. I'm not going to fill this up on air. The one other thing I wanted to mention, if people don't know, on tires, if you want to know how old your tire is, if you look around on the sidewall, there is going to be a spot where it says DOT, and I'll try to get a picture of this and put it in, insert it in. So this says DOT, there's a bunch of other stuff, and the last thing is 3310. So that's the 33rd week of 2010 when this tire was manufactured. So this tire's 5.5 years old, almost 6 years old right now. So some tires look like brand new. I've seen a tire explode that was 30 years old. The thing looked brand new. The vehicle only had 20,000 miles on it, so it had great tread. It didn't have any drywall checking or anything, but driving down the road at 65 miles an hour, the thing just let go. And that was on a heavy truck, a 54,000 pound truck. So it was pretty exciting when that happened. So other tires, you know, this one's 6 years old and it looks pretty weather checked and beat up. It just depends on the environment it's in and things like that. So just keep an eye. It's a good reference so you can tell how old your tires are. All right, so like I said, this tool has been really handy for me. I'm really glad that I've put it together for myself. These are probably commercially available, I don't know. I had fittings, I had hose here. The only thing I really needed to get was the latching tire chuck. And like I say, I'm going to try to get this straight type as well for like dual rims with duals on the back, things like that. The main thing I really wanted to show off was these connectors, which are Push Lok, L-O-K from Parker, or Barb Tite, I believe is the brand name, from Weatherhead. You can get them a lot of different supply houses. They're handy to have. Sometimes they're difficult to find online. Like I say, I'll put a link in them. I've used these on other projects that I hope to show a little later on. In my parts washer, I ran some remote heads and things like that. These work great for that. They're not very expensive. It just gives you, it's your imagination that's the only thing that's limiting you. You know, come up with what you want. If you want a short whip hose on the end of, you know, if you've got a big air tool or something like that, or a bench mounted air tool, and you just want a short whip to be able to reach over to the wall outlet instead of having 20 feet coiled up every time you go to use it. Chop a piece off, put a fitting on it, and go to town. They're really handy. So thanks again for coming into the shop with me, and until next time, thanks for watching.